Hello everyone, welcome back to the homestead. I don't know about where you're at, but it's been like spring this whole month of February for us here in southern Missouri Ozarks. We've just been loving it. The spring bulbs are already blooming and we're able to make some bouquets for the first time yesterday. The muscovies are starting to build nests in our compost here in the garden just like they did last year. None of them have started sitting yet, but I think they're getting really close. Duck eggs and chicken eggs are coming in again, which is wonderful. And just so many other beautiful signs of spring for the month of February. It's been a true blessing. Usually February is still quite cold for us here in Missouri, so we're very thankful. The sprouts in the greenhouse are doing really well, and so in today's video we're actually going to talk about starting plants from seed in the greenhouse versus direct sowing out in the garden and some of the pros and cons to both of those methods. But before we get to that, quick announcement. Our new calf's name is Dahlia. So thank you so much to everyone who participated in that poll. We're really excited about her name and she's doing really well. We're loving watching her and we hope her name fits her personality. Hopefully she'll have a beautiful, sweet personality just like Dahlia's.
So one of the biggest reasons we like to start the seeds in the greenhouse is because it's so much easier to water them.
Yeah, when you've got little seedlings scattered out throughout an entire garden, it can be really tricky to water unless you have a watering system that is good for that sort of thing. We just have above ground sprinklers and they're dependent on whether we have sunshine or not. So we just find that we save a lot of time being able to quickly water hundreds of little plants spread out over just a couple shelves in the greenhouse versus going around the entire garden to water them all.
So we save time watering, but we do have to spend more time on uppotting and transplanting.
Yeah, which we're going to do today. We've got some lettuces that need to be uppotted, so they're planted really tight. We're going to pull out just the very best plants with the longest roots and put them into larger pots. So that does take time that you don't really have to spend when you direct sow out in the garden. And then the other thing is we've got to spend the time to transplant them once we can put them out in the garden. So it's kind of a preference thing. We enjoy uppotting and transplanting more than walking around the entire garden watering. So I guess it's just kind of an individual preference of ours. We save time in watering, but then we kind of lose that time in having to spend time uppotting and transplanting.
The other benefit about starting your seeds in the greenhouse is because your plants can get a head start in growing.
Yeah, which really makes a difference for certain plants, like specifically onions. It's really helpful to have a month or so head start in the greenhouse because they take quite a while to mature. And here in Missouri, we can get really hot weather even in May, as early as May. So being able to get a head start on some of especially the cold weather crops is super helpful. But sometimes plants, because of the stress of transplanting, it may seem like they've gotten a head start, but then the same plant direct sowed later in the garden will catch up to the transplant. So some plants we found maybe it doesn't really matter if you start them early because they just get a little more stressed when you transplant them. So we're still learning and trying to figure out which ones are definitely worth starting in the greenhouse and which ones are better to be direct sowed in the garden. And so for now, we start everything in the greenhouse except for a few plants,
which are radishes, turnips, carrots, and corn.
And then of course things like garlic and potatoes, sweet potatoes, those are all a very different type of seed, so we direct sow those into the garden as well. The radishes and turnips do really well just direct sowed, and we often plant a whole lot of, especially of the radishes, so that would be a lot of transplanting to do. It just wouldn't be worth the time, and they grow so fast. So those two we direct sow. With carrots, we'd eventually like to grow a whole lot more carrots than we have in the past, and so I think transplanting the number of little carrot plants that we would need to transplant would just not be, it would not make sense to start them in the greenhouse unless we start them like we do onions, where we multi-sow. So maybe next year I'll try starting carrots in the greenhouse and multi-sow them like the onions. So then we'll be transplanting out little clusters of carrot plants rather than a bunch of little tiny individual carrot plants. We'll see. We're always learning and experimenting and trying new things. That's just one of the joys of gardening. And almost forgot, beans are another thing that we just direct sow out in the garden when it's warm enough. They grow very, very quickly. There's not really any point to starting them early because of how fast they grow. So all of our beans go directly in the ground and do great that way. There's some flowers that we direct sow as well. Sunflowers are one of them. There may come a time in our experience where we find that other seeds are just more efficiently grown direct in the garden. So we may be adding to the list of direct sown seeds just as we get more experience. But for now, we have a lot of fun coming out of winter and spending time in the greenhouse here, getting our fingers in the soil, watching the seeds sprouting and all of that. It's just a really fun process that Esther and I enjoy. Pretty much every morning we look forward to coming into the greenhouse here and seeing what new things have sprouted and how things are growing and coming along. It gives us a lot of joy. And it never ceases to amaze me just how awesome our Creator is. Being able to watch seeds, little teeny seeds, grow into these amazing plants is, to me, such great evidence and proof for a masterful Creator. So praise Yah for His work that He does, even from these teeny little seeds. It's a wonderful thing to watch. There's a few plants that we have to be careful of that don't like to be transplanted, and that's peas and then all the cucurbit family plants. So cucumbers, melons, squash, those prefer not to be transplanted, not to have their roots disturbed. So if we start those in the greenhouse, then we put them in larger pots, and that way there's less disturbing of the roots. Because when you put them in a little teeny pot, those roots can get root bound, and then it's just more stress when you go to transplant them.
So now I'm going to show you how I up-pot some lettuce plants. There's way too many, so I'm just going to be choosing some of the strongest plants. I do want to up-pot them all though.
Oh yeah, it's always a challenge how we don't want to lose any of the plants. Yeah. But sometimes we do get a whole bunch because we're trying to test old seed, thinking it's not going to really produce well, and then you get something like that. It's producing amazing. So those seeds were still quite viable, huh?
Yeah. Now I'm just going to very gently pull the individual plants apart, hopefully without breaking too many roots.
That's a nice one.
Here's a really nice one. I'm going to up-pot this one.
Just gently put that root down in the hole and push the soil back around it tight. She's going to put about 4 in each of these little 3-inch pots. Kind of a fun job, huh?
Yeah.
You have to be slow and careful. but it's very relaxing. One other thing is, if you have some starts that are really spindly, this is a good opportunity when you up pot to kind of plant those roots deeper down and help the plant not be quite so spindly. So lettuce is one you can do that with. I'm not sure if you can do that with all plants, but we do that with quite a few if they get a little spindly, huh?
Yeah.
Well guys, we're going to keep on up potting here. We've got a lot of lettuce plants to up pot. I do have a few cabbages that are needing to be up potted as well already. So we're going to keep doing that today. I would love to know what your thoughts are on starting seeds like in a greenhouse or indoors versus planting them directly in the garden once it warms up. What are your thoughts on that? Which plants do better starting in the greenhouse? Which plants do better direct sowing? Is it similar to what we do? Please share in the comments below. Before we go, we do have a couple thank yous to give.
Thank you, Melissa, for these really cool markers. I've been having a lot of fun with them. Thank you, Melissa, for these beautiful flower books. I've already been enjoying them.
And thank you as always to our patrons who make these videos possible. We so appreciate you guys. Until next time, we pray blessings over you and yours. And whatever you do, do it with your whole heart.
Do it with your whole heart.
Oh, there you go, Twitter. Good job.
Oh!
You grab it.
Wow.